Now, to Monday's Supreme Court case, there were arguments with a challenge to a case out of Mississippi. So, in Mississippi, the law concerning Election Day allows that mail in ballots can be counted so long as they're postmarked by and then received within 5 business days of Election Day. So, maybe you were out of state when you filled out your ballot, you drop it in the mail somewhere else, so long as it's got the postmark of that day going through the postal service, it's going to be counted so long as it's received within 5 days. So, a majority of justices in the arguments that were heard before the Supreme Court yesterday, according to a SCOTUS blog report and a summary of how the arguments went, basically said, I think the justices agreed with the challengers, which were the Republican Party of Mississippi, a Libertarian Party group as well. If this in fact goes, um, if the court ends up siding with the challengers, this is going to impact how election days go across the country. And Washington State, it turns out, is really an outlier in how we do it because so long as you've got that ballot into a drop box or has a postmark for election day, it can be counted right up until literally certification weeks later. And again, that really makes us an outlier. The ruling could be coming by late June, early July, most likely when cases are argued this time of year, the Supreme Court issues those rulings, a few months later. So that's what the anticipation is. So then it's going to affect the November 2026 elections. And they're going to have to make some adjustments in the office of the Secretary of State here and how all of this works. So here is State Republican Party Chairman on the significance of this case. Here's Jim Walsh.
The U.S. Supreme Court case is a huge deal for Washington State's elections. The case itself is out of Mississippi, but it hardly matters. The U.S. Supreme Court's ruling on it would affect elections everywhere in the United States, of course. Uh, and what the gist of the case is about is how long or can you at all accept mail-in ballots that are postmarked by Election Day, but not received until after Election Day. And Washington State is a massive outlier in this. Most states, well, I should back up. Many states say that mail-in ballots have to be received by the auditor or the election office by Election Day. And that's the safest and the most transparent way to treat mail-in voting. Some states allow mail-in ballots that have been postmarked on Election Day to be counted if they're received after Election Day. But most states put a time limit on that. They say it's 3 days. In the case of Mississippi, I believe it was 5 days. And that's the case that's being considered by the U.S. Supreme Court. Washington State allows ballots to be late arrivals until the election is certified. That's 21 days normally after Election Day. That's outrageous. I mean, Washington State is reckless and extreme in its position about that.
I reached out to the office of Secretary of State Steve Hobbs for comment and received a statement that says, in part, you can read with me. In 2024, approximately 127,000 voters cast a ballot that was postmarked on or before Election Day, but received after Election Day. In Washington, those votes are counted. Now, he went on to say, or the statement, I should say, from the office of Secretary of State Steve Hobbs went on to say, if the Supreme Court decision does indeed enforce a total ban on ballots received after Election Day, he says they'd be ready to, increase their existing efforts to ensure that voters understand what their options are. But it would be a big change for here in Washington, since from what Chairman Walsh told me, there's no other state outside of Washington that allows those ballots to be counted right up until certification. So it would be a dramatic change for us here in Washington. So stay tuned for that. Also, Shasti Conrad, who is chair of the Washington State Democrats, sent a statement. I want to show you part of that. She doesn't make any bones about it here. She's not very pleased with the direction of the case. The mega conservative Supreme Court putting their fingers on the scale mere months before elections are to be held will cause chaos, disenfranchise voters, and cost millions of dollars that states don't have. Washington voters chose our vote by mail system, and it has been working flawlessly for decades. Our elections system is the best in the country. Again, that was from Shasti Conrad, who is chair of the Washington State Democrats. So, again, that decision from SCOTUS likely to come late July. Late June. I just put June and July together there, didn't I? Late June or early July, and it will then have an impact on the November elections for certain.